Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's session, which is session number 2 in our VAT Proficiency Badge 2025. It is VAT Return, Step 1 and 2, Prepare and Reconcile with Ease. I think you can see in front of you, my name is Matt. I'm going to be guiding you through the process today of using the VAT Wizard. But as I mentioned, the VAT Proficiency Badge is the sessions that we're running at the moment. So we've got 7 different sessions covering various VAT topics, everything to help you guide confidently through the VAT submission process, recording your VAT. We've already had number 1, which was mastering your tax codes, and that was with Michael. And today, obviously, is prepare and reconcile with ease. And then tomorrow we have effortlessly complete and submit your VAT return. So I'm expecting to see all the same names tomorrow. I will be monitoring. In order to get your VAT Proficiency Badge for 2025, you have to attend 5 of the 7 live sessions and must attend the quiz. Once you've done that, you will unlock the badge and we will send it across to you by the end of July. We were running this VAT Proficiency Badge twice, just in case you've got any scheduling conflicts. Head to sage.co.uk/webinars to see the other available dates. But today, let's get back to what we're going to be doing today, which is preparing and reconciling with ease. Bit of an introduction to the subject, and then mainly it's going to be about demonstration. So we're going to have a look at what we're going to be demonstrating. We're going to be looking at preparing the VAT return, reconciling it, showing you the ins and outs of what you need to do in step 1 and 2 of the 3-step process. So today is 1 and 2. After that, there's going to be further support and obviously the questions that you've asked throughout the journey today. With regards to the housekeeping, if you've been with us before, you know the rules. If not, these are the rules. Your microphone is muted automatically. So if you make any noise, you're not going to interrupt anything that we do today. So don't worry, if you need a cough or sneeze, you're absolutely fine. Download a copy of the slides in black and white and in colour. They contain the handy links. The black and white ones, mainly if you want to print it off and take notes. I still do that. If many of you do that out there, then obviously that is why the copy is there for you. Send us your questions. So that speech bubble with a question mark in there. If you click on that, send any questions that you've got. We've got the wonderful Michael, the wonderful Tina, and the wonderful Abby. 3 heads today, yeah, to answer all of your questions. So they will prioritize questions in relation to VAT, the subject matter of the webinar first. Try and answer as many as we can within the 45-minute window that we have. Any that remain unanswered, we will contact you afterwards directly via email with any answers to your questions. But keep them busy. There's nothing better than answering questions during a webinar for them. It's why they are here, for the support. So let's move straight to it then. What am I going to be looking at in the demonstrations? Well, we're going to be looking at preparing the VAT return and reconciling the VAT return. Before we dive into that, let's ask a quick question. And that question is going to be appearing on your screens within the next 20 seconds. So there are 2 versions of submitting a VAT return. There is UK and there is Ireland as well. So there's no wrong or right answers to this question. It is just about what VAT you do submit, what form of it you submit. So if you just make a quick selection there, I'll give you some time to complete it. And just as an FYI, today we're going to be using the UK version of the software, but I have slides attached all the way throughout showing you the differences between UK and Ireland and the submission processes. So have no fear. The mechanics are largely the same. It is step 3 upon submission where it mainly changes, but we'll be covering that tomorrow. So if you've signed up for today, I would guarantee that you should be signing up for tomorrow as well, because that is going to complete the process for you. I'm going to close that poll now. I'm going to share the responses with you. Not vital that you know this, but just so they've got a good scope of the audience. We've got 94% that do UK, 4% Republic of Ireland, and 2% do a mixture of the two. As I say again, we're making reference to the Republic of Ireland throughout this webinar, but downloading the handout is going to be the best option if you are ROI, because then you're going to have copies all the way through. One of the first main differences is the wizard itself. So as you can see, this is an image of the VAT section in your Sage 50 accounts, which is accessible on the left-hand side of your module list. As you can see, on the left is the UK version, which begins with the icon scale charges, VAT return, EC sales, EU reverse charge. On the right-hand side, Ireland, which is VAT return, VIES return, RTD, VAT audit, but similar, if not exactly the same as to the UK version as well. So they're the subtle differences on the opening window at the start. Let's have a look at the actual program itself. Let's move into this demonstration now so you can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully you can see my Sage 50 in front of you, using the latest version, very similar to every single other version when it comes to submitting your VAT and reconciling your VAT returns anyway. Left-hand side, VAT, and here we have it. As we are again, the UK version. You've got your return number, the type, the file that it is, the period in which it's been run before, also the amount, the status, if it's been paid, and VAT transferred. Now we're going to go through these two sections in detail tomorrow. Today we're going to concentrate basically on reconciling and preparing. So one of the most common calls that we get, believe it or not, into the technical department is that when I'm trying to run a VAT return, it's showing me my previous VAT return. If I show you this one, click it here, you'll be able to see that's exactly what's happened. This is brought up an old VAT return. Eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that's because I have one highlighted. So if you do have many VAT returns in here, sometimes you can accidentally highlight one or more, depending on your Sage selection style. Best thing to do before you start your VAT return, swap, clear, swap, clear. Swap highlights everything in the list. Clear then clears what you've highlighted. So if I've highlighted the middle one, swap and clear, there you go. No chance I've got anything else selected. So this is where all your VAT returns are held. If you've never run a VAT return before, this is where they will be held. Paying close attention to the period ranges as well. So let's begin. Let's open a blank VAT return now that I've got nothing selected. So I'll just click simply on VAT return. And here we have a nice fresh VAT return. As you can see on the right-hand side, all the boxes are empty. Now in Ireland, ROI, you will notice that there are differences with your screen here. You have additional boxes, 11 in total, and some of the wording is different also. And that's just basically the way that the figures are pulled through to the VAT return in ROI. In the UK, you should be seeing exactly what I'm seeing in front of you here. So the first thing really that you want to do before you do any major processing in a Sage, if you've been to any of our webinars before, we always use these two words, back up. If you are doing a process in Sage 50 and it doesn't end up how you wanted it to end up, it doesn't look like what you wanted it to look like, it is easier to restore a backup to before you did that process than it is to unpick what potentially has gone wrong. So by simply just pressing this backup button here, bringing up this screen, you could easily put in pre-VAT return, save it to your desktop. Because once you've reconciled a VAT return, it cannot be unreconciled. So the importance of this part here can't be emphasized enough. Create that insurance policy, create that saved point that you can return to, and you will avoid all sorts of headaches in the future if something does go wrong. Not saying it will, but if something does go wrong. So that's my first top tip. I'm not going to take a backup now though. I'm not going to make you all sit through that, but that is what you should do. It'll also give you a little tip here as to when the last one was run. So 10th of June today, I'm well behaved, back up all the time. Below that, you have the date range. Now, this is the important part, because what you could do here is you can see January to 2025, 2024-25, that's 17 months as highlighted here. If I wanted to check what my VAT liability was for that period, I could just click on calculate VAT return, and it would populate these boxes with those figures. Then if I click close, it hasn't created the VAT return, hasn't done anything. So to demonstrate, I click calculate, it's going to work out these figures based on the input that I've given it. So I can check what the VAT liability was for that period, but then If I'm not happy with that, just click close. All calculations and everything I've done there will be lost. And then to start again, guess what? I just click on VAT return again. And I'm back with a fresh VAT return. So if you are just wanting to check your VAT liability for a certain period of time, quick way of doing it is just to do that, really. But what is important is that when you're reconciling your VAT return and submitting it, that you get the date ranges HMRC or the VAT receiver is expecting, because that's your obligation period, so they have to match. So in this instance, I'm going to be running mine from January 2024 up until March 2024. It will tell me that's 3 months. There's my quarter there. Okay, so that is my date range, and I am very happy with that, so I'm going to leave that alone. You'll notice this little box here, include reconciled transactions. And now this is really only usually clicked if advised by one of our technicians or if something has gone wrong. Because if you've done a VAT return in error and you've reconciled everything, like I said before, you can't unreconcile. And if you haven't taken that back up, that insurance policy or that saved point, you're going to have to run your VAT return again and include reconciled transactions. This can be problematic because it can pull through figures that aren't meant to be in your VAT return. So hence why you should never really be ticking this. Only upon advice from one of our support branches would you really be ticking that. So I'm not going to dwell too much on that point, but it does exactly what it says when you click on it there. It includes reconciled transactions from that period as well. So again, only if advised. Best thing to do is take note of the first point here, back up, and if you have reconciled an error, just restore that back up. Problem solved, headache avoided. The third option that you've got in stage one of preparing your VAT return is setting your VAT verifications. As you can see in front of you, it says 8 checks that run automatically to analyze your transactions and checking their accuracy. Let me bring this screen over here for you. And as you can see, there is a menu of options that you can pick. I'm going to go through a couple of them. So what you can essentially do is mix and match your VAT verification settings, because they're all tick boxes. Okay, that's the first thing to note. You can select all, you can clear. For example, why these are useful is if you have a subscription service. Let's all pretend we own Netflix and we're that lucky. And we've got hundreds of thousands of customers all paying $5.99 a month. You might want to untick this box, because what's going to happen is when you run your VAT, Sage is going to look through all the data, look through the facts and figures, and it's going to say, hang on a minute, this could be a duplicate transaction because we've got X amount of thousands of $5.99 per calendar month going out. You yourself know that that isn't a duplicate transaction, and Sage isn't telling you it's a duplicate transaction. Sage is just notifying you of the possibility that maybe something's been input more than once, twice, 3 times. So if you do have that kind of subscription service or a common figure that is flying through your reports, your figures all the time, you might want to untick that box. And that's what these VAT verification settings are essentially. They're not Sage telling you something is wrong with your figures. It is Sage saying this. You might want to check this. So again, making sure identify sales and purchase transactions, not using your most common tax code. So if you're using T1 at 20% commonly, but somebody has typed in T7, T8, T6, whatever it may be, Sage is going to pull that out of your data and it's going to present it to you and say, do you want to check this before you submit or reconcile your VAT? I've got a couple examples to show you on that as well. So this is what the menu is for. For me, for the demonstration, I'm basically just going to be selecting them all. It's a lot easier for me in a demonstration. But what I would do is try and then take things that aren't applicable to you. So possible errors here you can see with the VAT rates, etc. So I'm happy with my checks that are going to be run with my VAT verification settings. I'm happy with the dates that I've selected. I've also done a backup. Next thing I'm going to do, press this button here and watch these columns populate. So my VAT verification settings have kicked in. It is noticed that some of these late postings have been identified. So you can see that these were typed in here in 2023, but they have been included in my list from the 1st of January 2024 up until the 31st of March 2024. And these are late postings. Sage is notifying me, hang on a minute, these are things that were posted and now going to be in your VAT return. There's also a transaction here which is being edited. So therefore it's being resubmitted on the VAT return as well. Now what I can do in order to investigate these is I can select to Excel. Once I've selected to Excel, it'll send them all across to an Excel spreadsheet. I can exit my VAT return and I can do my investigations to find out, should these be included in the VAT reconciliation I'm about to do? If not, I will edit the transactions in that section. Depending on what obviously needs to be edited and depending what the circumstance is. In this instance, I know that these are late postings because I've done them myself. So I don't need to investigate these for the demonstration, but you may have to. Now, let's say you have investigated the transactions 2381, 2382, 2388, and 2389, and like me, you're happy they should be included in the VAT reconciliation. You would click include. If I find out that one of the three should be ignored, again, I'm going to have to exit the VAT return, investigate that transaction, and fix it separately, because I can't be selective over what to include or ignore. It's all or nothing. So if you have, when you run your VAT return, a long list of transactions here, best piece of advice as I can offer, send that list to Excel and take some time to go through your transactions to find out why they are there. Because in theory, this box shouldn't be populated. It's just to notify you. So you shouldn't be clicking ignore every time you're running a VAT return. Hope I haven't laboured that point too much. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click include because I am happy that these are late postings and one transaction that has been cancelled and replaced. As you can see here, the amount, net, and tax has changed. It's easy for me to investigate in this scenario. So I'll click include. Then once that's done, as you'll notice at the top, I've moved from stage 1 to stage 2, which is reconciling the VAT return. Verification results are in on the left-hand side, so I'm going to click View Results first. And this brings up what we selected in the menu before. So there is no possible duplicate entries, but there is an invoice or credit which has not been updated. So I might want to investigate this again. Sage is presenting me with information that just for me to double check. It's not saying it's wrong, it's saying just have a look. So this invoice has not been updated, or the credit has not been updated to the ledgers. To investigate, if I've got more than one, send to Excel, it's going to open up that spreadsheet again, as I showed you before, just to quickly demonstrate that. There it is. And you can imagine if I've got a long list, it's quite easy to highlight and say, yes, right, I've checked that one. Number 2, okay, I've checked that one. And again, work through that list. Just going to not save that there because I made changes. Same with the other verification settings as well. So purchase order has not been delivered but not invoiced. Again, it might not be due yet. So therefore I know, thank you Sage for notifying me of this, but I'm okay with the information. And again, the most common tax code, which is what I mentioned previously in the VAT verification settings as well, it's notifying me, this isn't the most common tax code that you use, Matt. Are these correct? Have these tax codes been entered in error? If they are incorrect, I would then go back to my transactions and I would fix that tax code and then rerun the calculation again. And you would see these disappear. For the sake of the demonstration, absolutely fine with that. These are just to show you the possible outcomes you see. And the biggest draw I can give you from this screen is always going to be the ability to send to Excel and to investigate before you reconcile. Remember, reconciliations can't be undone. So from this window as well, what also I can do is I can make adjustments to the VAT return. So if I have, for example, received an email or a letter or a phone call, or whatever it may be, from HMRC, and they say, actually, you need to make an adjustment in box 1 of £100, I could type in the £100 into this box by clicking on the pen. What I would do is maybe put HMRC instruction. I would press tab, and if it's to plus £100 to add, I would type 100. If it's to minus, I would type in a negative, minus 100 there as well. Good question came in from Jennifer there is, when you investigate anything and you need to make changes, do you have to come out of the VAT return each time to make the change and then rerun again? Correct. So this is why when you send it to Excel, it's a really good tip to have, because you won't have to keep going back into the VAT to see what the next investigation would be. You've got the spreadsheet in front of you so you can work through your transactions. Then once you've worked through that list, then rerun the VAT return, and you should see any issues that you potentially had disappear. But back to the adjustments. So they've asked me to put on 100 here, HMRC instruction. If I was to click save, look, it automatically adds it there. And then I would click close. What I could do for my records or for your records is add an attachment, add a photocopy or a scan of that letter, print screen of the email. These attachments don't get sent to the taxman. They stay with you on your PC, in your program. So you can add a reference to it if you need it later on. But again, this is where you would make your adjustments. But if you're making adjustments to transactions, you've got to ask yourself a question: is it easier to just exit the VAT return and edit that transaction than it is to make adjustments? Because then your audit trailers are also going to be correct as well. Next, again, self-explanatory here. Left-hand side, you can print your VAT return. So by clicking on this, it'll give you options as to what you're going to see next. If you want to see just the standard VAT return, brilliant. If you want to have the summary, if it detailed a list of your adjustments, earlier reconciled transactions, detailed if you're using departments as well, this is where you make a menu. I'm going to show you a very basic VAT return. I'm going to click run. Bit of a tip for you on this one as well, and I've picked this up through being a technician myself, is you may never need these reports, you may never view them ever again, but there's nothing wrong with saving them to a folder on your desktop called VAT, then the date, the period in which you're running it, and saving these reports to that folder. In that instance, sometimes it's better to have and not need, and need than not have. You can run reports at later stages, but if you've already got them in a folder where you know exactly where they are, you could be speeding up your own process a wee bit there. So again, print your VAT return. If you wanted to include your summary, superb. There's the two reports there, VAT return and your summary preview. So if you run all of them, save them to a desktop, tuck them into a folder, job's good. Same with your reconciliation reports. Internet was running a wee bit slowly there. Just take it to where you want it to go and then run the reports that you want. And if you're going to be doing your VAT return every 3 months, maybe put a little favorite, a little star here. So the next time that you open this window, the reports that you want to run are going to be there. Again, that folder that I said to create on the desktop, put these reports in there as well. Again, better to have and not need than need and not have in that instance. Just means that you're boxing everything off. So if anybody asks you for facts and figures and reports, you've got a saved point in which you can get them from. Now, let's say that's the left-hand side covered there. The right-hand side here, final part we're going to cover today, is we have the VAT boxes. Again, In Ireland, you're going to see different versions of this, more boxes and different wording. But let's pick on box 1, VAT due in the period on sales and other output. But we've got a lovely figure there. Let's say we want to dive into that. 3 arrows indicate that we can by clicking on it. Once we've clicked on it, it will bring up this box here. It's telling us that the majority of sales invoices, if not all in this instance, are T1. I wonder what they are. Again, if we double click into this column, I particularly clicked on T1 there, it gives us another breakdown of what that T1 entails, what is inside that column. You'll notice again to Excel. So if you need to do any investigation, send this to Excel. You've got a list there that you can work through to find out where everything has gone, or where everything is originated from, should I say. You could do it at this level. But again, these are all bonus points for you because you can just see where the report is generating its figures from. Again, nothing stopping you double clicking at the T1 and having another look. Just handy little tips to help you along with your investigations. So let's say verification results, I'm fine with that. Any adjustments, I've made them. I've also added my attachments and given a reason for the adjustments itself. I've printed off VAT return and the reconciliation reports that I need. Next step is the irreversible step, is to reconcile that VAT return. Now, I'm quite confident with this because I've done it a fair few times, but what's given me even more confidence is the fact that I've done a backup. So if I do click this reconcile button, then everything, for some reason, I notice something isn't correct, I can restore. But I'm going to click reconcile VAT return. Now, I made that adjustment and I didn't put my attachment on. So Sage is going to notify me of this. It's noticed that I made an adjustment, but no attached supporting documents. I can do that later, or I could do it now. It's asking if you want to do it now, essentially, so it's fresh in your memory, but you can do it at a later date. I'm going to click no to that one. This is the message that you will always receive. So flag transactions as VAT reconciled. You can't reverse the VAT reconciliation process, so we strongly recommend you back up before proceeding. Again, Sage is giving you that chance. We do wish to continue. So I'd click yes, and there we have it. It's like the old stamp on the old A4 bits of paper, reconciled, done. Now this section I'm going to go through in detail with you tomorrow, because again, it's another standalone webinar. You've seen this, it's taken 28 minutes, nearly half an hour to get to this point that we're currently at, just to get through to the reconciled part. So this again is going to be another bolt on tomorrow. So if you haven't signed up for it, sign up for it, but we will be going through in detail what these boxes do and what they represent, how to manually do it and how to follow the wizard continually as well. But a couple of tips before we do go into tomorrow. As you can see, it's very much the same kind of mechanics that we're going to be operating with, where you can view what you've done, adjustments, etc. But again, not to spoil too much. We'll not go through too much again. So I'm going to close this for now. Let's say it's the end of the day and I'm going to finish this again tomorrow. If I was to click close, the VAT return is there, the one that I've just done here. I know this because of the period in which it's been ran, the amount, the status is pending because obviously we haven't gone through stage 3 yet for submission. Still hasn't been paid and the VAT hasn't been transferred, all because we haven't gone through that section yet. But before submission, if I wanted to revisit the VAT return for whatever reason, I would just highlight it as I have done there. I'll show you again. Highlight it, click on VAT return, and it takes me to stage 3. Lets me know how far in the process I am. But the big clue that it hasn't been submitted is the fact that it says pending there. So let me go back to the slides. I seem to have Excel spreadsheets open left and right. Apologies. Get a bit click happy with those Excel spreadsheets. But let's go back to the slides. Now, the slides now are just going to be illustrating the differences, essentially, between the UK and Ireland. So just to gloss over them, because I don't expect you to sit and read the writing that's in front of you. But as you can see, for those who are doing the ROI or dual submissions for UK and ROI, these are the main differences that you'll see. This the majority of the boxes on the right hand side there, and also the wording can be different because different figures go into different boxes because of the fact that they have different systems and different requirements for the VAT returns themselves. Same again with the VAT verification settings in the boxes. You'll notice some of the main differences here. I'll check the VAT values on transactions for possible errors. So values at 24 and 21%, 21 and 18% on the left-hand side. Tax code T1 is 20. In Ireland, tax code T1, 23. So somewhat subtle differences, but differences nonetheless. So if you're doing dual submissions, possibly the best way to tell is for looking for these little details. Again, when you get to stage 2, just before you do click the reconcile, you'll see again on the right-hand side, Ireland has more boxes and different wording than that on the left-hand side of the UK. Step 2, much the same. So when you come to the third screen before you submit, then you'll notice again, left to right, different boxes, different wording. Also, differences on the submission sections, but again, more covered off on that tomorrow. So have no fear, I'll be going through that in detail with you. So VAT, if you've downloaded the handout, you're going to have this lovely, lovely slide in front of you. You'll be able to click on Great Britain and Northern Ireland or Republic of Ireland, and it'll take you to the Help Centre. Other than that, you could just type in VAT into the Help Centre itself, and it'll bring you up the relevant guides that you need. But we also have a special dedicated tile called Manage Your VAT. So at this point, I'm going to have a look at the questions and help the guys out to see if there's any more questions or anything that I can quickly demonstrate. I believe the guys are all on top of them. But while I wait for more questions to come in, if you have them, now's the time to ask. I will remind you that we now have brought to life or revived the one-to-one bespoke training. So if you do want guidance, our block sessions, one-to-one with one of our experts in Sage, they'll remote into the PC and have a Teams meeting with you and maybe your team if you wanted to have an education setting for a group of people. And they will go through specific areas of the program for you, VAT included, as well as stock control, CIS, construction industry, etc. Anything that's in the list in front of you. If you do feel that you benefit from that training and you want a bit more of that one-to-one coaching, which is a bit more in detail than a generic webinar that we put out, get in touch with us. They'll organise something for you. So that is all available for you there. A question from Tesney came in just there, saying, with the one-to-one training options, are these chargeable? They are chargeable, but you'd have to call in for a quote as to what that would be, because it depends on the scope on which the one-to-one session is going to be. So again, I will put that email back up there. If not, download the handout, just send us an email and get in touch with us, or email myself or Michael afterwards. We'll be helpful and glad to pass on information for you. And another question from Lynn, which is, what is the purpose of having the include reconcile transaction box? Now, I did touch on this just at the start, so apologies if you missed it there, but this is if you have reconciled in error and you're going back to rerun, let me just clear this. So I've ran a period here from the 1st of the 1st to the 31st of the 3rd, okay, and I was to run it again because I reconciled an error. I would have to click this include reconciled transactions and it would pull through any VAT reconcile transactions from that period, which could pose problematic, because if you have got new postings or late postings, it's going to pull those through also because they're in the same period. So it isn't just pulling through reconciled, it's pulling through unreconciled and reconciled transactions. So hopefully you'll never find yourself in a position where you're having to click that, because it's usually a strong indicator that something has gone wrong during reconciliation. So that's kind of the problem that you would have there. So what I was saying at the start of the webinar is, if you are finding yourself having to touch this button and interact with it, probably the better thing is to get in touch with our support team to find out if there's a better way of doing it. Or if you've taken a backup, avoid all that. Just restore the backup. And if you have taken a backup, it's File, Restore, and then locate where that backup is. So you can see in my section of backups here, I've got pre-year end, pre-data management, because I always take backups before I do any major processing, and I strongly recommend everybody does that, to be honest with you. A question there from Leslie is what to do if a VAT return has been run with include reconciled transactions in error. Again, it depends on the situation. I can't turn around and say this is definitely the answer to the question, because some investigation would be required. So my first thing to tell you, a bit of knowledge to impart to you, is get in touch with our support team via chat or telephone support. They'll instruct you, they'll do some investigation with you and find out what the fix is going to be. More often than not, in that instance, it would be to restore backup. But again, don't do that until you've spoken to one of our technicians. They'll guide you through the process of what's going to be best for you in that situation, because it might be an easy fix, it might be something that they need to unpick. So there's further questions to be asked in that scenario, Leslie. Question from Hannah there. Oh, Tina's picked that one up. I'll just read it out quickly though. It was, do you still have to manually back up even if we have a process in place that automatically backs up? I would recommend it before any major processing. Even if it's done every night at midnight, for example, I would still take a backup before you run anything. Best way. So as you can see here, sorry, I was preemptively answering a question from Hillary there, which was, can you pull a report with all transactions on it from a previous VAT return? If you look through your verification reports, the VAT audit, you've got all your reports in here for your VAT returns. If you've saved them in that folder that I recommended at the start, they're obviously going to be tucked into there. But if you highlight a VAT return in this section here and go through your VAT verification reports at the top here, you'll be able to get all sorts of reports that you're looking at. Hopefully that answers that question for you. Good questions coming through. A great question here from Hannah, which is, how would we run a dummy return? Are there instructions available? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll show you. So if you want to practice your VAT return, okay, on your figures, make sure you're on version 31.2 or above, first off. You'll be able to restore your actual data into a practice company. So if you follow these steps, log into your company, take a backup, like we did, remember, and we called it pre-VAT return, file, restore into a practice company, locate that backup. Okay, so I believe I saved mine on my desktop. I'm going to quickly have a quick look here. So yes, pre-VAT return here, okay. I'm going to click continue, restore, and what happens here is it restores my company data into a practice company, sandbox arena, okay, in which all the data And any changes that I make to it, it doesn't affect my live company. You can see here at the top, you're currently in practice company. To access your live data, select file, open company data. I've got a webinar on this. We ran it. So go to sage.co.uk/webinars, but using practice company or demonstration data to practice these processes in is a brilliant idea. And I'm glad you brought that up, Hannah, because you'll benefit so much from this. So if I click on VAT, okay, you know that from the backup that I restored, it was pre-VAT return. You can see VAT return number 6 isn't there. So in here, I can practice. And once I've practiced and I'm happy with the results, I think that's brilliant, I would then go back to my company data and redo the process. Yes, I'm duplicating workload here, but because I'm doing it in practice company, it means I know that I've got confidence in what the numbers are going to look like. So I know what I'm going to be encountering when I come to do the process in my live data. Really good question, that. I actually think the guys are on top of the questions. You've kept them very busy. Brilliant. That's what we like. Nice busy helpers. It's always a bonus. Well-earned cup of coffee for them all after this. But yeah, I think Michael's just answering the last question that came in there. Any that we have missed, we'll be in touch afterwards. There's further details or anything like that at all. But what we will do, I'm going to quickly pick up a question actually there that has just come in last minute from Mohammed, which says, when do we have to submit a VAT return after completion of the quarter? How much time or deadline? Speak to HMRC with regards to that. We wouldn't be able to tell you at this stage. It's completely, your obligation period is going to be dealt with by them, not ourselves. So make that phone call to the accountant or the powers that be. Superb. Right then, in this instance, I'm going to thank you all for your attendance today. All questions have been picked up and answered, and we are bang on 2:42 to get some time back. If you do need anything else, we will be in touch with you if we've missed any questions at all. If not, I'll see you tomorrow for part 2. Hopefully I shall speak to you soon. Bye for now.